How's it going, guys? Welcome back, welcome back. This is gonna be my Jungle Yorick Season 14 Split 3 clear video. I've just come up with a brand new jungle clear. I want to showcase it because it's bloody amazing, and it's just been incredible to figure out and to perfect. Just a big forewarning, it is pretty hard to make work properly, but I believe every single person with a little bit of practice in Practice Tool will get this down, and I promise you, it is the biggest fundamental to Jungle Yorick. You need to know it, so don't look away. Stay for the whole video. The way it's going to stay is I'm going to talk over the clear at the moment, and then we're going to go back afterwards, and I'm going to break down all the little nits and gritties about it. So, the goal of this clear is pretty simple. What you want to do is you want to clear your jungle in a way that lets you invade their jungle at level before 3 minutes. So you can steal away their blue or their gromp, and just take their time, because you don't want that time to be on your lanes. You want their focus on you. Now, the runes that I'm running at the moment are what I would normally run as a standard Jungle Yorick at the moment. I'm on Conqueror at the moment. Only note is not cashback, run Magical Footwear. Okay, so it makes a bit more sense to run that. These are not optimal runes. You can run the Sorcery Tree and get a little bit more damage, but that will change your clear a little bit, so don't do that. Just run this setup, and you can see the goal is to simply put Ghouls on the red buff. You can then invade their blue. You can get their blue away from them, or you can just get in their face and prevent them from actually doing anything. And you'll naturally get a lead over him, because if he was here right now and I took his blue buff away from him, guess what? I've got 6 camps over 24 CS, and he's still stuck at 20. But it's a major advantage. The way you're doing it is you always start wolves, okay? You always start wolves no matter what. You're gonna auto queue the big wolf. Actually, I'll take a step back before we start about that. Red jungle item. At the moment, red jungle item is statistically showing better than blue in terms of win rates. I don't know why. I can't explain it to you. That's just the way it is, so I'm running it. If you prefer blue or you prefer green, do whatever you want. It's not going to matter towards your jungle clear, though. So you always start Q, and you're going to auto queue the big wolf to start with. You're going to kite it up. So you want to kite it up that way. Now, you don't need to make perfect kiting here, okay? You actually don't want your buff, you don't want your graves to be up here. This is the worst case scenario for you, and I'll go over why that is in a bit. So you're gonna auto queue when it's available. Make sure you get the auto resets. So you see the second one's an auto queue. After you've done your second auto queue reset, you're gonna attack the big one 3 times. 1, 2, 3. After you've hit it 3 times, you're gonna switch your target to a small one. You're gonna auto, and then as soon as your queue's available, queue reset. That's your ghoul. That's your first grave, okay? So now we have 1 grave right down there. Now, you're going to look for identifying numbers, okay? So the first identifying number I want you to familiarize yourself with is 200. And bear in mind, this is gated on you running this exact same rune page as me. So right now I'm running +5 AD, +5 AD, and it's scaling health as a secondary. I think it's the most consistent. If you run flat health as a scaling instead of scaling, your damage numbers are going to be off. So you have to fiddle with it as you go. But for the purposes of this video, and for what I teach usually, just run this page and go off these numbers. So as soon as it hits 214, you can start kiting up here. Because if you're new to League or you're a bit unfamiliar with the mechanics of the jungle, this big circle right here is what is keeping the jungle monster from not losing what's called its patience bar, which is, you can see it is this little gray bar underneath its health there. The second it exits this area, this patience bar starts going down. You could reset it by having Yorick walk straight back into it and attacking the jungle monster that's outside it. That will reset it, but bear in mind, the second Yorick leaves this area, it will then again start losing its patience, okay? So once it hits 214, you can start kiting it up. So your first attack, and then start getting out of there. So you're going to auto it twice. It's going to get to 1 health. You're going to auto queue the small one, and then do the hardest maneuver in this entire clear. And I can't stress this enough. This is probably the hardest maneuver in the world. You're going to level your E really quickly. So I'm talking, you need to control E, set a hot binder for it. You're going to auto queue this one, level your E, quickly walk up, cast your E in this direction. You're going to turn around, get ready to cast, because you need to raise all of these ghouls with your Q. You cannot raise them with your E. And that is the main reason we don't want these ghouls above this line. If you have Graves here, they will raise with Yorick's E, and that is worst case scenario. Now, you might be asking, why would I want to do that? The reason for that is because of the way the jungle monsters are coded, or at least it looks like the mechanics of them. You'll notice that when the ghouls jump, at least I could probably showcase it in this little clip here, you notice where they jump to. You see how they jump from here right onto his center. It's because the ghouls have a collision size that is quite small. So they can get very close to this jungle monster. In fact, they can get on its exact center hitbox. Yorick doesn't have that. Yorick's collision zone is huge. Yorick is one of the fattest champions in the game. So I can't get very close to this jungle monster. So what happens is if you E it and your ghouls all jump onto the center hitbox, if this guy isn't already attacking Yorick, he's going to hit the ghouls. And you don't want him hitting the ghouls this early into a clear. Later on in the game, the ghouls can tank forever. But for the moment, your first clear, Yorick should be tanking all of them. So, go back a little bit. So, as soon as you get that E off, you got to do a very quick E, turnaround Q. See how I've done a little turnaround there? Q, run straight to it and start hitting it. Once it gets to your auto Q's gone off, you can now go to this blue buff. So you're going to leave the camp as soon as your Q has been used. It's actually quite a good clear because everything is very consistent and it's all gated around timings, right? So this Q, as soon as it's available, is your it's your Q to then hit it and now pass straight to the blue. Now, when you hit the blue, I want you to drag it into this bush. So auto it, drag it. As soon as your E becomes available, you can see down here, you're going to E it. Now, the way I've done this clear is slightly unoptimized. You can see the bush extends like this. If you actually position Yorick towards the bottom, these ghouls, when they jump, will jump onto the hitbox, which is inside the bush. The main reason we want that is because if anyone should come from the top area, either here or here, and they have a look in, they will probably see that there's no blue buff there. Now, if they're smart, they'll look at the icon on the minimap and see there's a blue icon still there, so it's probably in the bush. But you do whatever you can to prevent it. And it really makes things much safer for you. So you're going to hit this as normal. Now, depending on how lucky you are in timing, this might actually die to the jungle item burn. If it's low enough, it might actually die to the jungle item. So you won't even have to queue it. But in this scenario, I had to queue it. So you can see, I just hit it. Now, bear in mind, only reason I queued it is because of convenience. You don't need to queue large monsters to leave Graves. They will automatically leave it. So I could have queued this and then autoed this, and the exact same situation would have happened. So we got a Ghoul. Now, in terms of timings, remember, I've told you, there's numbers. The second this gets below 1,000 health, that is your cue to run. So now you are running to your next buff, which is your raptors, sorry. Now you can hear I'm actually spamming my E here because the timing works out bloody perfect. So now my E is ready to cast at max range. So right now you can literally just right click down here on the minimap, hold your mouse here and spam that E button and it will go off at the exact perfect time so that my ghouls now get bonus damage to that. Now, if there's the jungle plant here, you want to ideally hit it when you're positioned here. It'll knock you down there and save you about 1.5 seconds. But in this scenario, it wasn't there because I was practicing clears in practice tour. Now, that's your cross mid. Now, I talk about cross mid as probably one of the most important factors in Yorick Jungle's clear. This is what matters most. What time you cross mid. So 228 seems to be probably one of the best cross mid times you can get. I think you could probably get a 226 if you use the blast cone. And if you can do that every game, dude, I don't see why you won't climb an elo, because what this playstyle does is it snowballs your gameplay enormously. But 226 works out to be 228, 226 is a very good time to cross mid. So right then and there at 230 is when your blue will die. Assuming you do everything correctly, 230 your blue will die. That then means you've cleared, 3 camps. and you get your W available. Now, we're going to use our W in a very cheeky way here. What we're going to do is we're going to use our W like this. What this does is remember, the big one is positioned here. You've got to be careful with this. Because the big one is here, you can't do this, otherwise it locks the big one away. So you've got to do it so it just triggers the small ones by displacing them. So what it does is when Yorick's W goes up, if anything's on a position where the Yorick W is raising, it actually knocks it to the side, which aggroes the camp. It sounds like a really small thing, but it actually matters a lot, because you'll see it actually triggers the jungle item burn because we're dealing crowd control to something. In this scenario, you want to pick a minion to attack, then E the lot. Biggest thing I can tell you here, make sure you hit the big one with your E. You can see the way this W works is it actually puts everyone in a perfect straight line for Yorick E. So you want to hit the small one, E, auto, and it should be an auto Q, I believe. An auto E, auto Q. Auto E, auto Q. And there is a grave on the floor. Now, because we have 4 ghouls on the map that are within proximity of Yorick, this won't raise a ghoul, okay? Because the way that Yorick's fundamentals work is that Yorick and the Maiden both have a zone around them. It's a big circle. It's actually quite a big circle. It's a lot bigger than people realize. It's like this. It's enormous. And what it does is it's constantly checking how many ghouls are inside this circle. And if there is less than 4, so if there's less than 4 ghouls, it will raise a grave. So it will raise a ghoul from that grave. If there is more than 4, then it won't raise a grave, okay? So it'll just stay, that grave will stay on the floor. But like I said, that check circle is only around Yorick and the Maiden. If there are ghouls elsewhere on the map, it does not care. So you could have 4 ghouls pushing top lane and then have 4 ghouls on Yorick in the bot lane. As long as the check circles don't collide with more than 4 ghouls, you do not care. It will always raise ghouls regardless. So in this scenario, you can see we have everything ready, and I've just gone ahead and attacked the big raptor. My Q is up. We hit that one. Ghouls are still aggroed onto the big raptor. And we E it, and ghouls jump, okay? Now I'm going to take this back a step, and I'm going to talk about something very interesting. Now, there's a very interesting fundamental with Yorick. It's actually something I didn't learn until recently, and I don't think anyone actually realized it was a thing. The way Yorick's ghouls are coded at the moment is that if Yorick were to attack a jungle monster, so let's actually say it from here, if Yorick were to attack, if there were 4 ghouls here, if Yorick attacks this one, these ghouls get told to attack anything at all. So whatever's nearby, ghouls will attack. So they might hit this one because it's closest. If the red buff is closer than these, they'll even run to the red buff and just aggro the red buff randomly, okay? But that can actually be overridden because they're not actually following what Yorick attacks. They're just following an instruction to attack. If I hit this one, the ghouls don't hit that one. They hit whatever's closest to them. But if you hit something with Yorick E, it then adds a priority system to it. So in this scenario, you can see I'm hitting the small one. Now, that big raptor is affected by Yorick E. Right now, these ghouls are focused on this one. But this is where the little secret kicks in, is that if something has affected by Yorick E, and then Yorick issues an attack onto that camp, or that monster, it redirects the ghouls to attack that monster. And they will attack that monster until that monster either gets out of range of them, or dies, or Yorick gives them some other command. So that's why you can see all these ghouls are now targeted this big one. I can then attack whatever I want. If Yorick attacks a small one at this point, doesn't do anything. The ghouls will stay on that big raptor regardless. So you can see, I then run away because I know my ghouls are focused on that. And I E this camp. And now I run. Now, if I had actually stayed a bit closer, that big raptor would have spawned a grave, because Yorick passive always leaves a grave at big monsters. So this would have been 1, 2, and 3 graves, as well as the 4 ghouls that we have present right there. And then we run. Now, remember what I was saying about the check range? You can see, now that Yorick's check range says I have 0 ghouls inside, all of a sudden Yorick E goes, oh, well then I can raise the ghouls, and now we have 6 ghouls on the red buff. Now, those ghouls will stay alive, and they will continue fighting that because that was Yorick's last issued command, and we can run straight to their blue with their blue visible at 256. 256 is your timer. Previously, it was 3 minutes, so this is a drastic improvement. The interesting thing about this improvement in time is it actually gives reason to go for Cosmic Insight, because Cosmic Insight gives you your second smite before 3 minutes on the nose. You actually get your next smite at 245, around, I think it's 245. But that means if you get here and they're already doing this and the blue's on 1 hit, you can smite this. And if they're not running Cosmic Insight, they can't secure their own blue. You get it for free. It is actually so ridiculous, so powerful. It is such a good style of playing that I really love every bit of this invade play style. Now, if you're running 6 ghouls on the Gromp, like on the red in this scenario, your ghouls will get to you at 307, round 307. If you're running 7 ghouls, 302 is the number. So your ghouls will get there so fast, it is nuts. You'll almost have ghouls finish the red at this time. At this time, pretty much 2 seconds by, ghouls will pretty much have done it right now. It is so much faster. Now, a few things to note though. Like, what do you do if you get here and it's not here? What if they didn't what if they started here? And if that happens, it's fine, okay? What I generally say is ward their Raptors level 1, and that tells you everything you need to know. Because if you can do a ward in their bush, if you can get it into, and what I might do here is I might actually bring up some pictures of where I want you to ward. But if you can get it in the Raptor bush at around about 1 minute, 1 minute 5, 1 minute in that area, that will survive long enough to tell you where their jungle is going to be at what time. So if you can ward in their Raptor bush at 1 minute, that ward will stay there till 2 minutes 30. 2 minutes 30 is enough time for most junglers to cross the map into the other side of the jungle and to be on their 4th, 5th, and 6th camp. So if you see them cross through that way and you know they've cleared their bot side jungle, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to go for the invade. But I will preface it by saying you don't have to go for the invade, but still take this path. So I don't want you going, oh, I can't invade, I'm going to run this way. Because if you do that in Yorick's here, the check range will include all these ghouls. You will lose all these ghouls. You will only have 4, and it actually puts the red at jeopardy. You want to still walk this way, the way we've done, and you will simply run that way if you're ganking mid, that way if you're ganking bot. Pretty simple. You could even, if you wanted to, simply go for a invade in their jungle. You could gank their bot lane, but simply go, oh no, why did I do that? But you could simply go down here, through that path, down through here, and gank them from behind. Absolutely fine, there's nothing wrong with it. You can just do it off the spot. The most important thing, and a big disclaimer, is don't die. You can't die doing this. Gotta really keep your pacing on you, really make sure you don't overcommit, and just understand that the goal is to steal and disrupt. You're not going to kill the opponent, okay? You're not going to kill their jungler. It's almost incredibly unlikely that you're going to kill their jungler at their blue. What mostly happens is you'll see them, they'll see you, laners may rotate, so your eyes have to be on the lanes, and you've got to watch and you've got to see what they do, and you've got to steal what buffs you can, but don't die. Because if you get their blue, at this point in time, you can see it's 16 versus 16 CS, okay? Because neither of you have gotten your blue or your Gromp. If you take their blue, you get 20 CS. They are still at 16. Then you get your red auto die to ghouls, that's 24. They're still at 16. Then you get Scuttle, that's 28. They get their Gromp, that's 20. You are 2 camps ahead of them. It is insane. You can then go straight from Scuttle, all the way up to the top one and get the top Scuttle, and you can potentially be almost double their CS at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It is a disgusting, a revolting clear, and it is not balanced. The only thing that dictates the balance of this is the ability for your laners to move, Because if you go through here and it's warded and then mid rotates onto you, you got to make quick judgment of going, do I commit to this or do I just simply leave? One of the reasons I've started running flash is because it actually lets you jump this wall and just get the fuck out of there. Like if you need to, you can just jump this wall and just run straight down instead. Ghost, a lot of the time what would happen is their mid would come, their jungle would collapse on you here, you would pop Ghost, but you're still running through all the skill shots, all the spells, you're not outrunning anyone, you're just getting slowed to death. Bear in mind, if they're in this position as well, that means that they started red, they've got their red buff on them, so you're already getting slowed on their auto attacks. So it's a very strong clear, but there are very big nitpicky things to it, and you got to understand ways around it. Now, if you can't get a gank off and you just want a full clear, you can full clear with this, okay? After this exact play, you could simply, instead of going this way and E-ing it down here and running this way, you could just path your way down here and full clear it. You will do 6 camps by around about 3:15. All the Krugs will be dead at 3:15, but the actual camp will start its respawn timer at around about 3:08. And that's a pretty good clear. I'd be pretty happy with that. About 3:10-ish. I'd be happy with that. So if you just want a full clear, this path is absolutely fine to do. Just skip the invade. But I would highly suggest in this meta, in this game, you need to get used to invading, because it will dictate everything about your gameplay. It will make you a 10 times better player just getting this first invade off. And like I said, it will work on both teams. You can do it starting here, there, and there. Or you can start in their jungle and path up. Their jungle. You can start in the blue side if you're top team, path up and invade on their blue. Works almost every time. The only thing to note about blue side, if you're top team, is this little maneuver that I've done up here, where you see I've done this little auto Q, quickly level E, turnaround Q, is 50,000 times harder in the top team. I don't know why, it's just got something to do with the camera. It is just so much harder to do in the top team that it's absolutely fine to just have a little bit of wiggle room, play a little bit safer, make sure you get that Q race properly, make sure you get that E landing. It's absolutely fine to get it off in a slower fat. Now, the benefit of this clear though is you don't need to do everything properly. I've actually got a sample clip that I'll show you now. Now, this is what I would consider an imperfect clear. So you'll see the way that this clear gets done is everything is the same. The entire early start is identical. So I'm not going to show you the start, but what I'm going to show you instead is this little bit here where I've tried to kite it up, and you can see auto Q, I've eat it, raised the ghouls. Guess what? I've hit that auto Q. I've moved over to go get the blue buff. I've eat it. And then look what's happened. The blues died, the Grumps died, but it hasn't raised the ghoul. So that's a misplay. We've left, we've E'd the blue. That will still raise that ghoul though. So there's a lot of wiggle room about that. And the other interesting thing as well is if you can't get down enough, if you can't get further enough and reposition your character down here, because you'll see right here, we do this little wiggle move. I don't know if you caught it, but there was actually a grave down there and there's one here, one here. If this one doesn't raise, it's okay. Because when this one comes out and as you're running this way, when you E the first time from this camp, once it comes into the bush, this ghoul will raise and jump on this camp. So you will still have 4 ghouls when you finish this clear. The second you use your E here, so auto E, if there was a grave down there, guess what? It gets raised right now and jumps. So there is so much wiggle room in this jungle clear that you don't have to do everything perfect. And even here, you'll see I go down, I accidentally block a raptor in there. I auto Q. Look, I missed the Q, so I don't have an extra ghoul. So I've only got 3 ghouls on me right now. There's so many mistakes in this clear that it's actually kind of funny. So that's 1 ghoul, 2 ghouls. Look at that. I E'd. But look how funny that is. That's 5 ghouls on red. And look at the timing we get. 2:56. on the nose still with a blue vision, with blue buff in sight. Now, in this scenario, you'll see that the red will probably die a little later, probably about 310. I'd assume 310, because it usually adds about 3 seconds a ghoul. There you go, 311-ish. But you don't need to do the clear perfectly. It works every time otherwise. So in terms of better clears, I can't see a better clear than this for bottom team. Top team, you can start red buff. If you want to start red, you can. But for this clear video, I'm probably only going to showcase this clear because I think it's one I want you guys to practice and get used to. And it's absolutely fine to do from either side. So I hope you guys like this one. If you did, please hit that sub button and hit that like button. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Got more coming, so I'll see you soon.